Hello, everyone. Thanks and welcome. My name is Lauren Lavery. I'm the managing editor of the Capilano Review. Thanks for joining us tonight, this beautiful day we had today. I'm standing in tonight to take the co-hosting responsibilities from our incredible art editor, Jacqueline Songley Ross, who unfortunately couldn't be with us this evening. But I'm very honored, in that respect, to have the pleasure of welcoming you tonight to the 5th installment of our monthly reading series, Dear Friends And. So thank you all who are joining us here in person at Western Front, and also to everyone currently attending virtually by live stream. We wanted to think about the land acknowledgement reflecting on this past weekend's Orange Shirt Day and the recommitting to the work of truth and reconciliation. So thinking about calling attention to the stolen lands that we're gathered on here tonight, lands cared for by millennia by the visionary Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. As an organization primarily run by settlers, we like to also call attention to the indigenous name Capilano, an important hereditary title, also often anglicized as Capilano, that has been used without permission in our journal's title since its founding in 1972. The coming year will also see us continuing to unravel the significance of this name and others through this online series called Indigenous Places and Names. It's curated by our new associate editor, Susan Blight, and it's actually going to be launching very soon, hopefully in the next month, all tech issues aside. So we've been long awaiting this launch, so stay tuned to hear about that. So for those of you tonight who may be unfamiliar with the Capilano Review, TCR is a Vancouver-based nonprofit literary and visual arts journal published 3 times a year from our offices at the Woodwards Heritage Building. It was originally founded by Pierre Coupé at Capilano College in 1972. TCR has been independent since 2015, and just last year we celebrated our 50th anniversary. Yes, I know. Thank you. So as we head into the launch of our 151st issue later this season, in the fall, TCR's mandate continues to be the presentation of experimental writing and visual art, often in dialogue, side by side. So if you're curious to learn more, we invite you to visit myself back at the launch table beside the bar later, where you can find copies of our current and back issues, tote bags, editions, and more. So if you enjoy the event tonight or have been with us monthly for this reading series, we'd like to encourage you to purchase a $35 print subscription to TCR so that we can continue to publish, program, and promote art writing in the city and across Canada. A 1-year print subscription will get you 3 print issues delivered right to your door, in fact, beginning with our current issues, Intervention in the Archive. And subscriptions are really crucial to small independent publications like us. So that's the best way to support us if you're interested. I'd like to also extend our continued thanks to the Western Front for the generous collaboration on this series, and in particular to Susan Gibb, our co-host Kiel Torres, Ben Wilson back on tech there, Queely Wu documenting the event, Daniel Pickering on bar, Nazanin Ohaganin, and Sophie Slater on front of house. So I'd also like to thank the Kootenai School of Writing for their ongoing support of this program in particular. Kristen Viston, our artist-in-residence for this reading series, is also here tonight and has produced the beautiful background visual for this reading, reflecting on Junie, Isabella, and Tahida Tanya's readings last month and their shared acts of writing into the body from places of variousness or change. Kristen's paintings document the watermark backs of new paintings on their puckering manila paper, alongside drawings relaying a family story told through the artist about lightning hitting a coconut tree. So thank you, as always, Kristen, for bringing such a responsive, poetic sensibility to this series. So as for the format for the rest of the evening, we are very excited to have Klara du Plessis and Khashayar Mohammadi here with us tonight from Montreal and Toronto, respectively. And we'll open with a set of their combined solo and collaborative readings, lasting a total of 30 to 35 minutes. And then after that, Sonnet L'Abbé will join us for a 20-minute set of poetry and song poems. So there will be no intermission between these, so take the moments when you can if you need to take a break, etc. We're doing the best to keep everyone safe at this event, so we strongly encourage the use of masks if you're able to wear one. An all-gender restroom is available on this floor just outside the hall, and an additional 2 washrooms downstairs in the foyer. So with that, I would like to welcome my co-host, Kiel Torres, to introduce the readers. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. So in the spirit of Dear Friends and, I'm excited to introduce our first 2 readers who are actual dear friends and here tonight from the East Coast. Klara du Plessis is a poet, scholar, and literary curator based in Montreal. Her debut poetry collection, Ekke, won the 2019 Pat Lowther Memorial Award, and her critical writing received Arc Poetry Magazine 2022 Critic's Desk Award. Klara develops an ongoing series of experimental and dialogic literary events called Deep Curation, an approach which posits the poetry reading as art form. She holds a PhD in English literature from Concordia University. Khashayar Mohammadi, who also goes by Kess, is a poet and translator based in Toronto. They are the winner of the 2021 Vallum Poetry Award and were shortlisted for the 2021 Austin Clarke Prize in Literary Excellence, the 2022 Arc Poetry Magazine Poem of the Year Award, and the 2023 Prism Open Season Award. They have released 2 collections of poetry with Gordon Hill Press, and their collection of experimental dream poems, Daffodils, is forthcoming with Paminar Press. Nestled between Klara and Kess's solo sets, we'll hear both authors read from their collaborative translingual publication, G. Composed across English, Afrikaans, and Persian, G is a project of human interconnection through the metaphors of tongue, speech, and poetry as sound. G was my introduction to both Klara and Kess's work, and I was really taken by the delicious grammar that emerged from the entropic play of homonyms, citations, questions, and rhythm. So with that, please join me in welcoming our first reader, Klara du Plessis.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for those introductions, Lauren and Kiel. And thank you all for being here. We've all heard that there are numerous literary events happening tonight in Vancouver, so we're very grateful to have so many ears here with us. And I'm just gonna like get going. So initially, my plan was to start the evening by reading from this new poetry essay collection. Impossible collab, but through kind of a comedy of errors, I only received copies of this book 5 minutes ago. So I have decided to just introduce it visually to the room, and then to actually read from my first poetry collection, Ekke, which also ends up being a very nice, I think, introduction to mine and Kess's work, because the kind of translingual work that I was doing in Ekke, I would say led to the newest collection, which, by the way, we pronounce First of all, we no longer write in black, but in white stones. In small towns on South African outskirts, names are outlined in whitewashed stones, packed on hillsides to spell, to welcome, to warn against community from afar. Each name constructed with multiple stones, each name broken down to rocks the size of two grasping hands. The rocks hand-picked, transported, tinted, laid to rest in the shape of a name. Multitudinous, the name expresses itself only in plurals, always exaggerations. Repurposed, repatriated, stones estranged in new names. Names are larger than words. Word is to become. Woord is woord, which is not a word in English. Engels, angels. Scant undulation of landscape, which is not mountain, but towers over the town. If it is not a mountain, it is not a meaning. It is terrain as introduction, a vacancy to clarification, verklaring, vertolking, klippertjies, skip words over the landscape, as it were a lake. Confusing when lake is meer in Afrikaans, but mer is sea in French, but zee is lake in German, and meer is more, and zee is sight. Up close, rocks are the reverse of flowers. Flowers in the semi-desert shine tiny pinpricks of white between grays and browns. The rocks are blanched, spotted with brown where the paint peels through to its original self, peering out as negative space, lichen. Distanced, disintegration looks cohesive. On site, standing between words, letters deform, rocks roll away. Names camouflage in vegetation, proximity instigates uniformity. Changing a name to the exact same name requires an insanity of signage, new documents and maps a la carte. Identity politics of place, luxuriating ululations in the throat. Racializing script is like saying the skeleton is sexual to the bone. Rock hard, clip art, cliff off, or no, null, nil, nix. Tangible but illegible. My concentration dissolves towards the cacti, alien growth, thorny, throaty limbs, asking to, akin to, hand in hunt. I'm going to read one more piece from this collection. It's the title poem, Ekke. Ekke means I. It's an Afrikaans word for the first person pronoun. But in a kind of interesting twist, Ekke also means the kind of plural form of I, not we, but like if everyone in this room sees himself as the first person and all of us together, it's a bunch of I's in that sense. So Ekke is all, simultaneously an emphatic form of myself and a sense of multiplicity. I eke out a meaning for myself. Ek, stottering. Ringing sharp, peals of smiles, the attempt, contempt, the temptation to become myself is great. We're on such intimate terms when he writes me, he says, "Hi, Kay." I did not give him leave to abbreviate me. He takes the initiative to do in the rest of my spelling. K as Afrikaans, C Anglophone. One of the first things I learned is that Afrikaans rarely uses C's. C's, seen everything. A mirror image is never static. No still photograph reverses itself, modulates, or rearranges its face unless it is another picture altogether. The possibility exists that K reflects C in a way that has bent or curved one letter into a resemblance of another. One of the first things I learned is that English rarely uses K, except in a CK combination lock. Rotate the number till chimera and metal gives off on fingertips, titties in event, words kiss but never uncover any form of hidden meaning unless that meaning is the meaning in that moment, memento mori. It is the K in my name that saves me. K is me, Ek. C is meek. There are certain associations I harbor against Klara, spelled with a C. too British, too Victorian, sweet, virtuous desire as heroine solely in a nuclear family way, complicit in characterization, eyes cast down, passive, except for good deeds, dead, perhaps. Conceded there is clarity in Klara, but claustrophobic. Her beauty is in the innocence of hair lying like unraveling lace on her chest. Her chastity is duty, her aesthetic, ethics. Knowledge is restricted to goodness. The perfect equilibrium, when she lowers her eyes, it is modesty. When I fail in eye contact, it's a skittishness, a fault, an unsocialized character default. Unsocialized, default, blank slate, connect the dots of our eyes when we chat. I shame my sister name because I sense the same gentleness come submission in me. If you close the wide open legs of the K, she becomes a cross, Kruis, reclining, a position of art, submission, but with intention. What, after all, is the difference between gentleness and gentility, a certain crossness in the chirography? Coincidentally, at the exact moment I consider writing my name, I read about another kind of Klara. Modernized, which means still not quite contemporary. An artist, she demands respect in a way that implies erudition, but with pride, self-conscious negation, no-nonsense drapery dresses. Steeds nie, klink klaar nie, die klankbaan konglomereer om die ore, 'n skrikbeeld van oorbelle, mond-oorblyfsels teen die skedel, ancestry perverted as vertes. I speak languages. Leiftaal, skryftaal, statuary marble, constructing my mouth and biting words out in freeze. In my handwriting, more often looks like move, handskrif, tijdskrif, move somehow in time. I want to spell hand with more pretension, like a playwright. My language is a secret, secretion curled up in a recess, uncurling its animal muscles when the break is done and auditorium bells chime, dier, dierbaar, baarmoeder, mother tongue, licks cryptically from the crypt inside me. Afrikaans is an affection, hidden, geheim. I know for a fact that heim is home in another language, the finger that sticks its tongue right in there to break my hymen. Deciduous female figures cast off selves left and right. Lies grow out of shoulder blades and lodge, a nervous condition called the angelic. Ekke is an extension attached to the back or to dial a direct call. Ek, k, back to back, k, like soos vlerke. Forget what I say most of the time. Thing is, he listens. He thinks. When lovers lie back to back, there is dust on things they'll never clean, their bodies inflecting wings. Ekke is not a mirror reflection, but it is a reflection. The mirror is not a safe space. When I look in the mirror, I see reflections of language. It is prejudiced against me. I do not belong in any one mirror. My tongue licks away the definition of language in the mist on the glass. The glass responds differently when I ask in different lingos. There is no lingua franca of the mind. My kind, jou taal is ontwortel, gegordel, 'n gegorrel, genade tog. I got to go. Please welcome Kess.
Do you want to do the talk first and then I give the audio talk?
Right. Do I want to do the talk? Is our newest collaboratively composed book of poetry. In middle of 2020, Kess and I started working together in a shared Google Doc, working with a kind of, with a premise of the shared fricative sound in both Afrikaans and Persian. And that was really the starting point of this entire book. And what could have been a couple of poems ended up, growing into a manuscript as we just continued to, love and be inspired by this premise. It's a book that brings two languages from such disparate geographies together, and it's an act of hospitality in which I was invited into Persian and Kess was invited into Afrikaans. Parts of the book are so interwoven that we no longer really remember who wrote what. Part of the part that we're going to read tonight, which was actually composed orally, is a sequence of speeches. Those we will be reading our separate pieces.
And this is going to have a backing sound piece that... So in 2021, we were asked to make... sorry, I stepped off mic for a moment. In 2021, we were asked to make a little 1-hour piece for Tap Center for Creativity, where we read for 30 minutes, and then we Zoom called and for about an hour and discussed the process. And the sound piece that you hear right now is all the vocal imperfections of that 1-hour call put together. And that's going to play as we read this to you. And we're going to start that right now.
What should we? I remember it's really.
My serrated throat. Modular. Needing a bass drum floated behind the mic like thoroughly percussed in the images it takes to arrive at the word. I was quoted, and I quoted. When I got to fingers that smell, there was an aversion. See, there's a corner of language where I've ordered us to stay in speech. I've ordered us 2 glasses of wine, quarter plosives on the quarter beak like fricatives in the quarter tone. Amassed scales beyond the Anglo and all the otherwise perceived ones like, okay, look, I've said this before, when I speak as I'm spoken to, a new efforts emerges from my silence finds that quarter attractive. My silence smells of fingers no matter how far. Listen, when first put into the frame, the letter shakes. A harf is the letter written, a unit, or a stage? Is the sentence uttered, a hammer, or the mouth? Is speech, is listen? Is key, listen? Speech must have at least the rasp of what we write. The affricate fits nice in the fist. The fricative dislocates the jaw. The affricate fits in teeth. Only fricatives can, through practice, clarify.
Speech. Face to face, the soprano tells me my voice is harmonic, tells me my voice is consistently 2, deeper bass, airy and dependent, bass strand, higher, hammer, I am between neck and throat, the slit of musical ventilation voicing a constant split. She says, I have never heard this so consistently in a voice, but, she says, listening before the sound is the best listening. I contract my own soprano, stinging flute voice, high, heightened register, agency of singing in such I am my own throat, its walls, the links of larynx slinking along the hollow organ. But if I have learned anything, it's that emptiness is always presence, that the hollow is its own muscle. When my gruff voice grovels, gravels, gavels, I crack open the fricative of my citational Africa, road tongues constantly expulsing earth breath into the language of my body, of my story, of my stones, bones, gasping tone. I, who am also L, who am also one, who is also line, I line my litany, a line, a lie, recline in the shadow of this speech, in the gasp of this poem, shuddering forth from affricate togetherness. Lecture addressed to all vocalists, all soloists, in rogue monologue, in soaring fury that this rhyme, this relentless beckoning roar, is stranded in the open poem, agoraphobic, erotic glottis of neckline.
Speech. Flute voices, stone bass, teeth in mortar, so carried away to dream-charged speech, gone, speaking louder than the soprano and spoken louder too. It's a term in the sublingual dissolve. Your recline and my linguistic incline only dissected in the dream tongue, you know? When you speak too much, you repeat, and when you repeat yourself, you're insisting. There's a tremor, like a library chair, shifting a single floor above. Squeaking under my tongue squeegee, the shelf at either end of my speech, and a shell, a self, alive. The singularity of laughter inside the laugh out loud archive. Little talons of speech, little electric nights of spooning the tongue and waking up skinned. I always begin with so much damn ambition. I'm talking to you, but believe me, on the page, I'm speaking, not writing and waking up. Believe me when I say I can't speak, I can't sleep on the other side of the tongue. I can talk without moving but can't move. I can laugh without moving but can't move. Wait a minute. Did I ever tell you we were roommates with a curtain as a divide? Did I ever tell you you can peek through no matter what I'm doing on the other side? Okay, they all begin like this. What can I do about speech but gear up? With breath and subdued self, breath and breadcrumbs in and subdividual. Let me see. I want to see. I keep telling you I don't know the depth of what's lost in writing. The micro-dissolved kham like khatkesh khurush as kham charkh chachi bekhast, a litter of alliteration, investing in rasping of bows and roaring of arrows. I lick with my serrated tongue this envelope that holds every letter and a letter to you. Shuluk, like the streets with policy, like the store with customers. How many wars ago was this before the divide? Engalab, like usurp to revolution. Remember the dead, we say, one day. Remembering numbers, but not names, not the line.
Speech. What is the speech, anyway? The abstraction of language, or the words in, out of my mouth, in, out of my mind, question mark, in, question mark, out. Speech, reversing to suck monologue deep into the gag reflex of transcription. Mouth, moth, mother, Did I ever tell you that I am the curtain, fluttering and fluctuating with my one single wing? Speech. On meeting one of my favorite artists, I say, no, I cannot shake you by the hand. I cannot partake in this ringing connection, this sociability of anxiety. Suturing fingers, this is not beyond the social, this is not anti-gestural. Wet language of the mouth, hand-hand coordination, letting go of the clasp, gasping through orifice of face-off. Excuse me, I don't like meeting with hands. I commune with mouth. Speech, leaking from lip squeeze. Why am I so cold? Why am I so sultry? Instinctively, my hands eliminate themselves into lyrics, lyrical speakers. They are themselves in the distance between symmetry. The definitions of poetry become the author I can never be, not for silence, but for the manual labor of language. To be pinned down in the catastrophic garment of being, burdened and bedded with voice. I hand my hands to the artist, and within the exoskeleton of speech, of gift-giving, of yes, here, please, I regress into a redness so potent that the tips of my life are reborn.
Speech. The conversation shifts colors, shifts down to a single unit of speech. Okay, see? Length of emphasis and a question of repetition. A question framing har for kalam. Okay. You didn't like it. I farm Persian rugs for their rose blossoms. To hack at my subconscious like a scribe. Okay. See? My greatest obstacle to speaking is wave after wave of spit breaking on the tongue. Speech. I implore you to read the instructions out loud. I ask of speech to bubble outside the head and never inside. Aw, so cute. Is it an indoor or an outdoor phrase? Of course, we repeat ourselves because language repeats itself. Of course, I keep rethinking apparatus because Klara, because only Klara, and if and if or and is a thought seam that speech will defy. In its generous blades, scalpels for the idiolexicon, listen. If you're tired of the iterations of listen, you need to remember I'm spoken in delight. Klara, Khashayar, we crash into the poem, raised ledges and raised tongues, retroflex but still rasping in this pulmonic little sound. Listen to the speech, and remember it'll be followed by more speech, and speech, punctuation, puncture, bring percussion, blew the lip wide, blew the ear to the side, speech. Down the puncture, up and through the eye, sublinguous, subcontracted, subliminal eye, with floating heads and floating eye, pulled tongue, braised tongue. Do it for the space of the divide, do it for separations, and the immovable, and the conscience, and the heartstring, and the cold tongue on dinner night, do it for the speaker speaking that.
Speaking that, speech. Is it okay, or just K? K, Khashayar, K, Klara. If the speech were address, my head would angle towards you and say, if this poem were apostrophe, I'd angel up on the apparatus of my speech and turn. To shout, okay, exclamations clamoring at porticos of poem noise. Swap any word for poem. I, poem. Am, poem. I am, poem. What is this? Poem. The whole huge poem engulfs an epic wave of language, okay, but more than that, poemness infiltrating, filtering, flitting through filigree, unpunctuated, of poetry. The loosening, the letting go, the letting through exactly in the instant when I poem. I hope that when the poem poems the poem out loud, I will physically shriek at the only instance of punctuation I have ever allowed myself. Separating, clarifying, silken baby fetus of being, threading in the shivering thriving of okay. If I were speech, less clench, more outing, the way my mouth elongates as lateral signing. When I say okay, 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 this poem was supposed to invoke, display, to say collateral collaboration, guttural gut urethra of linguistic longing pulsing up the vibrating slit between vocal cords and vocal folds, voluptuous luxury, draping, amming about. I am the poem. I hate, I love, poem, 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 equally sarcophagus as esophagus, citational shout of inscription, muscular tube of saying out loud, aloud, aloud, trinity of sphincters ascending the throat, to, toward, two words, oh, poem. Thank you, it's been a real honor to be here.
This is called Bedfruit. I start with the shape field, first night madness on the corner of the bus making first eyes to some guy. Tongue deep in peach sap as if oysters, as if dusk, as if bedfruit were from afar, the elderly lent wrinkles to Lake Ontario. And us, a we, and I filled with third voices, but who was the third one weeping? At the Mosque of Irony, in theory capital, Insurrection Day, in reflection, mother tongue. Retroflex d on the downbeat as whole notes like down, down, down. What vile, what villainy, which candlelight, sinking in syllables on Execution Day counted in women. Waiting women, hanging women, serenaded by the coupon. Sugar, knocking at the rims of a cold cup of chai before the false bottom drops. Sinking in syllable spectrum. Joe says a birch is reverse lightning. Well, Joe says a lot of things when prices go up. Train tracks from one bank of the subway to another. The sentence drops at the center, limbs lubricated in loving limbs, no body in them. Cold walls holding colder material. I'm tired if poetry is tired. I'm morsel by morsel this clarity. I'm remembrance, causing rupture. I'm tiptoes in sawdust, slotted into its many grooves to plow. After years of quake, sluice, and tumor, after Lazarus, after 4:30 p.m., after reading out loud that collapsed sentence, after her daily Russian, wish you could honeypot the infected iconography, wish you could insects on checkerboard staggered across open doors, wish you could, and a baby's cry letting attend our wedding, wish you who sang codes across prison bars and bleed syrup on marble slab floor to set translateral stability, wish verging on fertility, chug unreachable city, wish queried cause, wish, and you who live abroad, poetry laced with pure genre, somewhere farther down the slippery where poetry is a genre, and false bottoms in the bathhouse, wish. And the sentence collapsed mid-speech, bedbug bite, the elderly lending wrinkles to Lake Ontario, wish. I start the sentence with only its shape. I left the body alone, afflicted with bisexual mood light. I asked the dance floor what it dances to, clawing at a plastic to imbue with song just one apple mid-Dutch still life. Elder queer sigh, alone in AIDS outfit. Am here. Am New Draft 1 hometown asphalt with teaspoons floating at the rim of our cup of chai. Urban salt. Doomsday pepper. A becoming by typo. In the end, I refuse the hermetic text, making eyes so fast it is almost speech and speech again. Batter me before bread, Kuleshov stare at the cake and wait for its revolution eaters. In the end, I said, find us this common poverty. In the end, I said, this is the strongest voting party. And I said this, living in a living room with a living egotism. A split intuition, begrinding eyelids before the end, where I said the learned of sexual intuition unwalk their certainties, tempered with facsimile and legally acting against the billowing of psychoanalysis. The learned of the screen are my trend now, licking charcoal ice cream off of hers and hers menstruation cups, disturbing the perennial discourse. In the end, I said half of our waking life is to unwalk this ejaculation of mythos, rejection of the queued-up songs from menopause, penitent, pedestrian, pedestal. Something has to spin to find our true north, and something has before it stops all of a sudden. This horizontal occasion to end ward hunger, changing tree branches with all the might of walnut PNG, reading hunger through holy dyslexia. This poem about me the same way that the word is about 3/4 through the line. In the end, I say, we are heading towards a jump cut. In the end, I say fangs poison outward. In the end, he grew hands for fun. Such high wages for war, down the alleyway, gun shut. In the end, friend comfort like raised limbs in summer. The bus is crowded is my party slogan. From orange segment to the receptionist's mouth, this peeled immensity perfected by the whole. In the end, we have lips for AI-conjured incantations propulsed to create each moment from behind the eyelid fugue, color fields in color cone cell, nerve, mycelium like speech again, like a spore of light spread muscle deep again. In the end, I'm losing to my dreams. False textures of civilization, dreaming up a new guise, just another day in July, input justice. What does reality owe to the carnal? In the end, I say having your feelings met is an aperitif you can only find in museums. That God rays of light in hanged paintings, but God was the material of another epoch. Downstream, purely accusative light, with dribbling consonants across a conceptual poem like and drums, across any heartbeat, side-chained to the clatter of my teeth like lily of the valley blight. The torn-up petal, no fjord, can partition, waves crash, soda stream, and now speech again, cut in the trade embargo. The tree named us in return. Flashing red lights through bent limbs of iron. In the end, I exhale this noise, scratching at our cochlea. In the end, I said, I'm only aroused by low-income housing, the moon-scorched midnight and floating archipelagos of mood lighting washing over red reed fields sprayed crimson with blood, reed players with teeth gaped in a decade's practice painted before harvest. The way fish learn, the way deer learn, the way trash learns the Tao and the will. And speech again, bringing along its +1. Severe, persevere, do I dare this new tongue to lick me with eyes closed? Let's both grow as people so we don't have to grow the numbers this quarter. Let's break with harmony and speak with 1%er words in this 20%er lane. Let's say with 10%er words this 90%er pain. Let's break away. In the end, it is 3 morning. In the end, it is 4 early. To break with harmony and spill. It's always been woman on the other side. And speech again slapped gore on the car for the wedding. It's always been women at either side of speech. And speech again slapped gore on the car for the wedding ride to the countryside. He drove red-pilled with a man's breath, but a page can always flip prematurely. Thank you.
Thank you, Kess. Sonnet. I remember coming across your work in the exhibition Dream Islands at the Nanaimo Art Gallery, which featured a poster edition that had text drawn from Sonnet Shakespeare. And since that first encounter, I've been interested in your expanded approach to annotation as a practice towards displacing the colonial canon, exposing power to make space for honesty and lived experience. And the way in which these values are carried across your poetry, criticism, and document making has been so exciting to witness as a reader, and we're so happy to have you here tonight. Dr. Sonnet L'Abbé is a mixed-race Black writer, professor, organizer, and performer of Afro-Guyanese, Indo-Guyanese, and Quebecois ancestry, and the author of 3 collections of poetry, A Strange Relief, Killarno, and Sonic Shakespeare, and the chapbook Anima Canadensis. Sonnet lives on Nanaimo territory, where they teach at Vancouver Island University. So let's welcome Sonnet.
Hi, everyone. Hey, everybody. Hey. Okay, after hearing Kess's and Klara's piece, I'm changing my list. There was a piece in the Capilano review in one of the anniversary issues, right? Okay, so this is part of that. I invite you to translate my speech to text. I'm going to give you this sound that we use for vocal exercises as many times as there are zeros in Google. Goog, 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 goog. Goog, 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 goog. Goog 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 goog. Goog 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 goog. I think I messed it up. I think I added an extra one. All right. All right. So I'm going to read some of my work from Sonnets Shakespeare that for me is so much about silence, so much about a visual poem that has language that's not speaking in it. And then I will also be offering what for me are sound poems. So each of these, this text has an entire Shakespearean sonnet buried in it, interwoven in it. I put all my letters around it and speak with my own voice in the same space as the Shakespearean sonnet. '33. Free music lulls many angry, tailor-suited youth. Some mornings the avenues bristle when flaneurs mutter under their custom foulards. The fountains stop. Swish-clothed street lovers keep plugging into odd-aisle cyberspace, blocking the polis's chorus of whirl. The gay, bold, mean-faced theatrics of meanderers and widowers grant gentlemen gilded standing. On pedestals they stand, dreaming a dress with heavenly adolescence. Their MySpace nostalgia can permutate into Spotify fetishes if base pleasures are met. Sound clouds float above transit riders' worn outfits. The thug-lifely rackets want in streetcars' packed aisles. Palatial factories are renoed. Lofty rooms with retrofits, tongue-and-groove floors, and walk-in closets draw lads. Rough, industrial visages hide sensitively aligned designer sound systems. Bearded downtown aesthetes wink at hot hipster ladies, Instagram charitable events, OMG at boys in uniform, learn lines by black rap lyric masters to earn cred with kids. Their shiny bikes with brass bells, their triumphs, make noisy streetscapes. Listeners endeavor to earn money by growing handlebar mustaches for full-time jobs at blacksmith-esque warehouses, but only scarce hourly minimum wages do they score. Plugged into online clouds, while apathy masks hide their misfortunes, some men discover wild style. Those hip-hop mofos were the hippest, mixing vinyl on vintage turntables in ghettos white folk disdained. The suburban sons of bitches who overlord municipal folky festivals entertain wishes involving heavy metal frontmen, substances, and gun-straddling angels of death. Sometimes I'm still figuring out how I like to present these things. And sometimes I read a poem from Sonnet Shakespeare that I think kind of does the same thing, like comes at the same material from a different angle. I've got lots of poems in there about trauma. So this is the same poem. I write the same poem over and over again in some ways. The colonial, just being on this colonial's land, in this skin. On the highway, south of Winnipeg, in 1983, was a little town where I was brown and people couldn't see. Yeah, just south of Winnipeg, off Highway 403, was a little French-Canadian town, hadn't seen the likes of me. They gave the cold eye to my mother in the local grocery store. At me they hurled those good old words I'd never heard before. Teacher, look the other way. Fists of gravel in the yard. Mom said, keep your eyes down and it won't go so hard. Mom said, keep your eyes down and it won't go so hard. Hey, Madame La, I was born here just like you, in this idea of a country we're all living through. Hey, Monsieur La, I was born here just like you, in this idea of a country we're all living through. Up at Saint Vital, they had my dad. Oh my goodness. I'm still learning the guitar, as you can see. Up at Saint Vital, they had my dad make bright Saint-Cyr fléché. He told me to go home like I would take their land away. They called this river red and taught me songs of Jacques Cartier. They were full of names for things brown people didn't ever really say. They were running games for games brown people could never really play. Hey, Madame Law, I was born here just like you, in this idea of a country we're all living through. Hey, Monsieur Law, I was born here just like you, in this idea of a country we're all living through. In this story of a country we're all living through. In this fiction of a country we're all living through. Yeah, the whole like change from the like back and forth between poetry culture and because like we read the poems and we don't like clap after the poems, right? Usually. Maybe we should. Okay, so this is another one from Sonnets Shakespeare. I wrote this before I got to go to Guyana this past summer. It's got a bunch of references to Guyanese, Calypso, and Soca folks. Hot form lady shake she donkey, sweet brown sugar twist she behind. What for a tune child if not dancing? The mighty sparrow he make you whine. Little gal goddess done teeth men's eye. She got a roomful them peeping she backside. Hot heat spreading down on she belly, wet heat from her form make a boy loose tie. Female form provide the action. In public, sweet men answer she smile. Child, public manners don't make body less round. Female body drive the dance hall wild. How come you sitting when your batty so poom poom? Your nice Amerindian friend gon' come? She gives Sambaksh reason to dance, dalpuri, patty, and a bottle of rum. She danced to mighty enchanter Dulari Betty. She swing to Aubrey Cummings' lead guitar. She danced to Colin Wharton. She worked the saints. She liked the dum-dum daddy of the hotel stars. Shanto song body the spirit of Guyana, make the Indian tap and white British mind. We no more under England rule of law. Down your colonialism, rattle ya behind. Like a quay-quay's dance hall be jumping, partiers plenty high wine will drink, portions of chow mein, soups and dumpling, latrine, steam, kungsi, ras, strong stink. King fighter, he bounce up with Lilian, roaring lion make sly observation, better not marry pretty ass one, that girl will make for bitter union. Thick dunk woman devour double and pepper, she dingole, she dance calypso and roll. If you're not erect, best expect correction. Pity men think she under by control. Girlfriend bacchanal does be bouncing your backside. You take your eye and pass me. Quarantine heart, your superintendent twine. You's enough to cuss. Remember who your ass be. You went the other way with it. Okay, so these songs, that last one is not part of a project, but the Nanaimo Art Gallery had a bunch of artists do like installations and readings, all connected to the Millstone Creek, Millstone River. And one of the installations, they invited me to come to all of them and then write in response to those installations. And one of them was a walk along the river with an ethnobotanist from UVic named Nancy Turner, and then also a Snuneymuxw elder named Geraldine Manson, whose Snuneymuxw name is Cetacea, and they talked to us about the native plants that we were seeing as we walked. So this was my document of that walk. Elise asks the elders about invasive species. She's wondering what we should do. Elise asks the elders about invasive species. She's wondering what we should do. What should we do about the Scotch broom that yellows the meadows and roadsides? How should we treat English holly and English ivy with its ever-spreading vines? Unless you uproot them, they'll choke the ecosystem, the ethnobotanist replies. Unless you uproot them, they'll choke the ecosystem, the ethnobotanist replies. What should we do about the Scotch broom that yellows the meadows and roadsides? Native plants and trees need strong protection, or the tender balance dies. Native plants and trees need strong protection, or the tender balance dies. What should we do about the Scotch broom that yellows the meadows and hydro corridors? How should we treat Himalayan blackberry that trades its sweet fruit for control of countryside? You can't get rid of all of it, says Cetacea. You can't just blitz the land. You can't just pull out everything without hurting the other plants. You've got to go in by hand. You can't just pull out everything, says Cetacea. You can't just blitz the land. You can't just pull out everything without hurting the other plants. You gotta go in by hand. That takes time. 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 Elise asks the elders about invasive species. She's wondering what we should do. A lack of listening. What poverty. My muse has been some abstract listener, imagined by a self formed by fear and competition. I thought that having an audience was communicating. Who are you, person? I can't open long enough to show you the respect you deserve. I'm trained to hear the argument. Meanwhile, you're listening, and I'm barely noticing I'm heard. Your presence is worth more than whatever I'm saying. Listening has felt like humiliation, but you make attending into grounded praise. You're beside me, not blaming anyone, not mentioning any petty things friends said. You're in motion recording our interaction, writing it in your heart. When I listen, this book isn't as necessary. The hour I've been seeking, the place I've sought, is here. And there, where you are, we appears. You have faced the ego that overgoes my blunt invention. You quietly embody the human propelling my lines over land. I'm so busy doing my best, sometimes I disgrace the very witness my furious witness intends. Your intentional listening, fount of calm. Our togetherness calms this striving to mean, this drive to ungrammar the Western subject, this heart believing itself alone. Your trust is the reward if I listen well. Fellow, person, what do you need? Opening to another person. All the defenses my verses serve soften. Don't overthink it, you say. Listen. Soften. Your graces and your gifts dissolve my urge to tell. And there is more, much more space here in listening than in the aspirations my verses speak. Can I sit by you a while? Can we be grounded in your knowing? This is the last poem. I just want to shut up and open. I want to say nothing, human, when you're right here looking for listening. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Sonnet, Klara, and Kess, for sharing your work with us, and everyone here for joining us tonight. So if you enjoyed tonight's reading, mark your calendars for our next and last event in this series. This year, it's going to be Thursday, November 2nd. We'll be joined by poets Hope Anderson, Wade Compton, and Samantha Marie Knock. So stay tuned for the full announcement coming soon. But in the meantime, feel free to hang out, grab another drink, buy a subscription from me at the book table, because if I do too good a job here tonight, they might ask me to do this again next week. Just kidding. But yeah, thank you so much for coming, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.